Welcome back to the Skolcial Network. My name is Brev and I was definitely not asleep and totally didn't almost oversleep this recording. That was Jason. I had to call and wake this guy up. Be like,
Yeah.
hey, come on, we got to record. But before we get into all that, after I blame him for this, uh, if you did you get a little touch of nostalgia just now when you opened up this video and heard that song? Because we just threw it back to its 20, like Kirk Cousins just
2024.
left.
We just turned
Yeah.
it back to many conversations about a quarterback dilemma.
Uh
And we
huh.
thought once we had those conversations, we were done with those for a
Yep.
while. And then we had them briefly last year before the team made a very clear decision not to give Darnold a long term deal.
Yep.
And then now we're back as Minnesota Vikings typically are in the quarterback conundrum. But I like the new one. The new one's good. It
Mm-hmm.
fits your vibe. I'm still proud of the work I did. I think that was
Totally.
the first thing I did once our good friend Eli Corbett sent us our graphics that we asked him to help us with 2 years ago. But I think you put out a post on Twitter like 2 days ago,
Yeah.
just shouting them out once again for it because uh, a lot of times you ask people for graphics or you can go on different services, they're just so overboard. His
Yeah.
concise, to the point, clean, exactly what you're looking for.
I loved it. I remember when he sent us the graphic package immediately that he gave us a hell of a deal on. By the way, shout out Eli. I got chills looking at it. But we are back with the original Skolcial Network again. I feel a little weird whenever I'm hosting because we did 50 something episodes together of the Skolcial Network originally, and you were the host. So I'm trying to live in your shadow. Jason, tell the people where they can find you since you're not here anymore because I disappeared from the internet, and then
Yeah.
the grubby, grimy hands of Score North stole you away from me.
Yeah, Brev. I mean, finders keepers, right? One
Yeah,
man's trash, another man's treasure,
yeah.
apparently. But yeah, it's Jason Harmon NFL on Twitter. If you're using the Sleeper Fantasy app, I also do all the Vikings news on there. If you go to the feed section, you could follow specific team news for any of the major leagues. I cover the Vikings, so anything that you're looking for, you could even get some breaking news notifications from me when I don't know they sign a quarterback on a league minimum deal who
Mm-hmm.
was a two-time Pro Bowler, but minor things like that pop up. But other than that, do some stuff with Score North mainly during the season. But I will be, if you're in Minnesota or you're looking to make your way out for the Score North draft party, you may or may not see me around there once the details of that officially drop.
Yep, yep. Definitely, if you're in the Minneapolis area, which if you watch this, you probably are. Definitely go to the Score North draft party. Looks like a hell of a time. I originally was gonna go there, but transparency wise, getting started in the full time sports field as a full time career and job is pretty. It's a
It's tough.
it's a gamble and it's a big financial sacrifice. We're still in the midst of that, but I will be going to Pittsburgh because the stars aligned on that, and it's free to get into the draft and stuff, and I don't have
I
to
got
buy
a
the
cheat
plane
code
ticket.
for you. When
Uh
you're
huh.
going into sports coverage for the first time and you're going through those rough patches, just
Yep.
get a wife, especially one
Yeah.
with a really good job. It's super simple. I'm glad I thought about it.
Yeah, I tried that. They just weren't selling those at the store, unfortunately.
Got it. Yeah,
But I did
that
look
happened.
into that avenue. We were going good there for a year. But some would say that might be why I was gone for a year. But anyway, so yeah. And then if you're going to an event of any kind, use code JasonH or Brev on SeatGeek, save $20 off your first purchase. And then I would give the Dr. Squatch
So
code.
I shout out.
I would give the Dr. Squatch code out, but I tried to log into that affiliate portal. It just doesn't
Wow,
exist.
man,
So
going ghost. Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
I
you
don't know.
stopped plugging it, they lost all their revenue.
Yeah.
So clearly, you just cost yourself money by going offline.
It's no secret that I don't think there was a coincidence that when we started plugging it, they got Sydney Sweeney. And I don't know how much you can talk on that being, married and stuff, but hey,
I think that was all you. The
yeah.
Doctor Squatch entire venture was completely all Brev.
Yep. You're welcome. Feel like a man, smell like Scotial, but not anymore because I can't log into the affiliate portal. Anyway, we're here to talk about two men, for the most part. Pause. If you didn't hear, in case you've been living under a rock, and you haven't seen a million uploads from your favorite content creators, billion tweets, whatnot, the JJ McCarthy fan base, stan base, freaking the hell out. Kyler Murray is a Minnesota Viking. I guess just to set the stage, Jason, let's get your general thoughts on the Kyler Murray signing to the Vikings, and kind of where you're at on that before we dive into the hypotheticals of the season.
Yeah, I mean, as a long time up until just last summer Arizona resident, I have gotten to see quite a bit of Kyler. I think his highs are very much worth what you would call the lows.
Yeah.
But I also think the lows of Kyler Murray are largely, and I'm not saying this is always the case, right? There's no perfect QB, but are largely due to where he was playing. I think, you have teams like the Jets that are on such a large stage and market that they're them being bad is such a widely known thing, and how bad they are is such a widely known thing. Then you have kind of the meme teams like the pre, what was it, 21, 22 Lions,
Yep.
really the pre Dan Campbell Lions, and then the Cleveland Browns that, even though they're not in the biggest markets, they're just so bad that everyone's aware of it. You see the brown paper bag, you see the 0-16, you see the Orlovsky run, you see the Browns having 6 quarterbacks on the roster or one time or whatever the hell. I think it was 5 this year if you count Watson. The Cardinals are Phoenix is a much bigger market than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
Most people there are transplants. So the teams don't exactly get a ton of recognition unless, the Suns, when they were in the finals, got a ton of love. The Cardinals, when they started 7-0 or 8-0 in 2021, because that's when we played, they got a lot of love. When you had the Diamondbacks in the World Series, suddenly, the first couple games of the NLDS with the Dodgers, or NLCS, I think it was the DS, mostly Dodger fans, and then all of a sudden the Diamondback fans showed up to have a chance to see him win. All that to say, the Cardinals aren't a team that, unless you're really into football, people realize just how inept they've been at building a winning football team since
Yeah.
Kurt Warner was there. And they've tried a lot of different things. They've tried Carson Palmer. They've tried Matt Leinart at points, before Warner. They've tried Rosen. They tried Murray, right? They've tried multiple different things to try to get a spark in there, but there's a reason that they are continuously at the bottom in almost every NFLPA grade. They finally are building a new state of the art. We'll have to see facility after years of complaints. So all that to say, when you're looking at what a lot of the things are about Kyler Murray, keep in mind the type of franchise, the type of owner, the type of GMs and coaches he's played for. I see all the concerns about his work ethic. I've talked to a few beat writers and guys who cover the Cardinals just over the last couple of weeks on Twitter, or people I know. I'd say 95 to 99% of them say all of those concerns about character and work ethic were national media stuff that kind of was a narrative that got created, or that they really believe that the whole study clause and things like that really were how do I put this? A really crappy move by the organization to try to get contract leverage and make
Yep.
him look bad. So I think we'll have to see this. That is a guy who went top 10 in the MLB draft, number 1 overall in the NFL draft, won the Heisman. I posted a video the other day. I mean, and a few years ago, when that contract was signed, he had to kind of defend himself. He's like, I don't, at my size, I don't make it to where I'm at unless I work hard.
Yep.
So I think, at least for now, we'll have to see what happens. But I think a lot of those concerns people have, you could put to rest, at least for now.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you about, and you kind of answered it, about like being from Arizona. You have a better gauge on most of this guy, and I guess like how the Cardinals viewed him. But I would have to agree that a lot of this stuff kind of got overblown, especially the character thing. Like the film clause was almost purely because he came out, and like I don't think he was. It didn't seem like joking, but like it kind of was. It was just him being confident in himself. He said one time, like, I feel like I see the field so good that I feel like I don't really have to watch film. And like it's hard for me to hold that again. Like he's
Yeah.
gonna watch film. He's not just gonna not watch film.
Yeah.
But
And they also watch film day in, day out in meetings. It's not like he's like, oh, pulls the hoodie over his eyes,
yep.
in the facility, right? So I think I think a lot of it is he has seemingly a pretty he's not a guy, I lived in Arizona. I was a mortgage banker before I met my wife. I would go out and you hit the bars in Old Town Scottsdale, you'd see athletes. Famously, that's where Michael Floyd made himself a Minnesota Viking temporarily after operating a vehicle, right? So you
Hmm.
see people around. Kyler wasn't a guy you really saw around. He the Call of Duty thing, it's a fun joke, whatever. I've been guilty of making jokes about it in the past,
Me too.
but you kind of grow to appreciate a little bit the fact that he's just a guy who wants to, when he's not at work, he just kind of likes to chill, keep things relaxed. You know what I mean? Justin Jefferson's the same way. He spends his entire offseason doing a Grand Theft Auto role playing live stream. He has an entire GTA RP server, and I don't see
Hmm.
people making fun of him for it. He's still considered a master of his craft, but I'd rather have somebody who's just maybe a little more secluded during non football activities and likes to sit at home and a nerd out a little bit than somebody who's out there driving their dog to the vet at 140
Hmm.
miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm definitely. This show is definitely guilty of the Call of Duty jokes because, like, what 2 years? I think in 2024, when we played the Cardinals, I literally titled one of our shows like "Call of Kyler" and the Cards of Duty kill streak ended or something. So
Yeah, they're not your best work, I'll be
no,
honest.
yeah, 1,000,000%. We are guilty of that too. But also, I'm like, I look at somebody who's like a father, like a father of a newborn or a father of like young kids. So maybe you relate a little bit to this. Like, are we gonna get false outrage and get upset at them for playing Call of Duty? Because that, like, being a father seems like a way more important job than an NFL quarterback. And you're not gonna
Oh,
yell at a
oh,
father.
you're going back to the Quasi conversation, but
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
oh yeah, but you'll get people all up in arms. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I play video games to the extent I used to? No, but I don't think the whole Kyler thing, like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of assumptions, and I think the memes have kind of admittedly caused people to think like he's bringing his Xbox to the team hotel the night before a game or something like that and missing like pregame dinner or whatever just to sit there and get double XP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, if it's November and he has a rough month,
Yeah.
maybe we'll have that conversation. But um, I'd have to see the numbers. I'm very curious. I want somebody to dive into double XP. I've heard people say it, but I've never actually seen tangible statistics. I'm very curious. But I think
Yeah.
the good news is, and this might be beneficial if true. The rumor was the last Call of Duty did so badly that they're going to take a year off. So if that happens, then Super Bowl, apparently.
Yeah. No, I doubt it. I doubt that happens because Call of Duty is a money making machine, and I don't know if they'll take a year off. They're gonna get that money anyway. That would be great. Like the last Call of Duty was really bad, but
Battlefield did Battlefield did that and did so well and sold so many, like broke so many records, they just laid off half their staff. So,
yep.
a lot of
EA
good things.
EA Sports, it's in the
I love
game. Speaking of
should we yeah.
speaking of EA Sports, real quick side note: there will be Madden streams when Madden 27 comes out. Just so everybody knows. I
Wow.
got that in the, but that's not
Are you gonna
important.
stream the night of where 2 hours of the stream is just you getting a cannot connect to server message because the game's always online and you can't do anything?
Absolutely. 1,000,000%.
Hell
I'm in it
yeah.
for the long haul. But as far as the Kyler Murray, JJ McCarthy thing goes, because the Vikings will say up and down this is a competition, I actually do kind of believe it's going to be a competition. We're going to get into the hypotheticals of like the good, the bad, if things go good, if things go wrong. I think we both,
For each option too,
right.
because
I
we we can make
good.
assumptions, but there's different paths.
Yeah. I think we can both agree to get like the best case scenario for the Minnesota Vikings. I think we both agree on what that would be, and that would be JJ McCarthy beating out Kyler Murray and becoming good.
100%. I think you can you can be excited about Kyler Murray while still wanting McCarthy to succeed, and you can still want McCarthy to succeed while also being really hyped about the idea of Kyler Murray starting. And Kyler, Albert Breer put out a really good article today, and everybody's interpreting it how they see fit. But the one reason I liked Kyler, and it was basically for me, Kyler or don't even bother, just start McCarthy and find a random backup,
Yeah.
was that Kyler could be your long term quarterback. McCarthy still could be your long term quarterback. Geno, Kirk, Rodgers, they're going to be around a year, maybe two, and they're not going to have any long term upside. So the thing with both of them having long term potential, the best case scenario would be the guy who's 5 or 6 years, I think about 5.5 years younger, and that you spent in totality 3 draft picks on. I think how many picks did they trade to get up from 11 to 10? I think they traded 2 picks away.
Something like that, yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't just spend you traded up from 11 to 10. So you spent draft capital for that, and then you spent draft capital to select him with that 10th pick,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, that's not anything like I hope Kyler fails. It's just objectively on paper, drafting and developing your own quarterback you spent multiple picks to acquire, who is 23 years old. You have him for longer. At minimum, let's say each of them retires at 35. That's 6 years with Kyler, 12 years for JJ.
Mm-hmm.
You spent, again, the draft capital. I had somebody, our good friend, Purple Persuasion, who we like to go back and forth quite a bit on Twitter. But he said, well, in that scenario, don't you end up having to pay McCarthy? Well, you're going to have to pay one of them.
Yeah.
And the good news with McCarthy is that you still have, assume this year's a wash and that he develops on the bench. You in that hypothetical, you're kind of back to the Darnold situation, most likely, which we'll talk about. But he's on the bench for a year. You still have 2 years of team control, including the 5th-year option in that. So you'd avoid hopefully the kind of Jordan Love situation as much as possible. Where yes, Jordan Love admittedly is a good quarterback, but he's being paid. Or at the time, the contract he got was for an elite quarterback, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you want to avoid that. But yes, I mean, McCarthy has the upside on age and obviously investment.
Yeah, and you could also make the argument in terms of the investment McCarthy, what you gave up in letting Sam Darnold walk because you doubled down
Correct.
on JJ McCarthy being the guy,
Yeah.
which again at the time I still kind of defend that decision cuz like you
I still fully descended because you
yeah,
you defend it. You made it in the moment and you thought it was the one way to get the tools you needed to build a complete team.
and
Funny how that worked out.
also Sam Darnold at that time looked like he was going to be no different than Kirk and absolutely pissed down his leg when the light shined the brightest. But, you know, you can't really play revisionist history with that anymore because of what happened a couple weeks ago when Sam Darnold rose the Lombardi. Naturally, we're all shocked that that happened, because that's just the most Vikings thing that could have happened in this scenario. Um, yeah, JJ McCarthy being good is definitely the best possible thing because like with Kyler, you got him for $1.3 million. You're really not risking anything whatsoever. So you're not having a ton of money sit on the bench in case McCarthy pans out. With McCarthy, I guess because I think the main issue with McCarthy right now, them Alec Lewis reporting a couple weeks ago that like they had to like take out the middle of the field essentially and just like go build around an offense around that for McCarthy is really really scary because JJ McCarthy like the really 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 cool thing about McCarthy coming out as a prospect that I talked about all the time other than like that he's won everywhere he's gone was that he would attack the middle of the field and he was really good at doing it at Michigan. Well, now all of a sudden the kid can't do that anymore, and that's a pretty bad omen. And with McCarthy, the thing that the kid needs that the Kyler Murray thing might not help him with especially if Murray wins starter, is McCarthy needs reps really, 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 really badly. He
Yeah.
only threw like 700 passes at Michigan. He's like at 1,000 pass attempts between Michigan and the NFL right now. Bo Nix is at like he's in the
Something's
in the
crazy.
NFL alone. He's at like 1,600, 14 to 1,600 or something. So the kid needs reps, but the kid needing reps is not lined up with the timeline of Kevin O'Connell
Correct.
needing to save his
100%.
job.
Yeah. And I think it depends on how you see reps. Because if you see
Yep.
practice reps, obviously, I don't want to say as that they're ever as valuable because game speed, right? Quarterbacks can't get hit. They usually play through what would be a sack in an NFL game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are all factors that make them, in theory, not as valuable. But if it is decision making and locating of passes that we're focused on and being able to layer passes, read defenses, precisely deliver a ball, I'd still say you're getting about 80, and if I'm going to be super gracious, 90% of that same value getting those practice reps. So I think that argument could be made. But I also think, and this is really the conversation that we're going to know super, super quickly as soon as the gates of training camp open up is this competition thing real or is it bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
Because they are saying, and even Albert Breer's piece today said, like they talked about him and Kyler that they would be competing. It wasn't, he said, hey, I see you as a possible long term option. Come in and be our starter. Let's see how it works. It was, hey, I see you as a possible long term option, but goal number one is we got to do this camp battle. We got to have you beat out McCarthy. And so there's obviously, and this is another conversation, some of which probably can't, not my information to air out, but there's obviously some disconnects with McCarthy. But I think, just within the building, but I think if there is a scenario, well, we'll save that one. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think at the end of the day, the best quarterback will get the opportunity to start, even if it's not necessarily right out of the gate. But let's maybe start. I'll kind of lay out the scenarios I
Yep.
talked about. Scenario one is Kyler looks really damn good. And this, maybe McCarthy looks fine. Maybe he even looks good, but maybe he looks bad in camp. But the bottom line is that they bring in Kyler Murray and he looks really good all summer and he earns the starting job and he looks really, really good throughout the season. That is for the people who want to move off McCarthy entirely. That is the best case scenario for them, probably. But I'd say in that scenario, what do you think the ceiling is realistically with this team as constructed in the playoffs? Like, how far do you think they could make it?
If Murray is really good, I mean, one of the main knocks with Kyler Murray, and again, this could all go back to he was on the Cardinals thing.
He was
Um,
on the
he,
important context, people.
yeah,
Like, got to keep that in mind.
yeah. The win loss against, and I'm not a huge win loss quarterback record guy, but the win loss against good teams is kind of concerning, and his play against good teams is kind of concerning. But that's also always been like a Vikings concern. So it doesn't help if Kyler Murray struggles against good teams, but it's also something I just kind of expect. And maybe I'm being a loser by like giving Kyler a pass for that, even though I'm not really. But if I had to, because I mean, if you look at the 2025 team, and you can't perfectly apply 1 year to the next in terms of, well, if this would have been the case with this year, then this will be the case next year. You look at the Vikings in 2025, why did they not make the playoffs? Yeah, the Bears kickoff return is the thing that we all point our finger to. The Vikings didn't make the playoffs because quarterback play was so bad last season, to the point where I don't even want to give them the out of the
Yeah.
Bears kickoff return. Like JJ McCarthy, and me saying this is not trying to like plant a flag or anything, because if you've been watching Skolcial for a long time or just following me for a long time, you'll know that I've been a big JJ McCarthy guy, even like before the before the draft process, before it became pretty clear that the Vikings were gonna select him. Trade up to three is done, by the way. With McCarthy, like he
Uh,
was legitimately for most of the season, most of his play last year, one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever watched in my life. And there is like the argument that well he missed his entire first year and he was injured and he's so young. Like yeah, it doesn't change the fact that he was one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever watched in my life.
yeah.
So if we can have a winning record with that, it all kind of it depends on the Brian Flores defense playing up to at least the standard that the Brian Flores defense has set for us, especially last year because it was really good last year. And JJ McCarthy is technically 6-4 as a starter, but if we're all honest with ourselves for a minute, yeah, week 1, week 9, big plays, cardiac plays from the kid. He played terrible for 99% of the Bears game week 1, and then he was
Yeah,
definitely
75%.
yeah, he did have a good
That
fourth
fourth
quarter.
quarter was a lot different.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm not
then
saying that changes the point,
no,
but
no, no.
the thing with McCarthy is just what there was there was admittedly way too few good moments, but the
Mm-hmm.
moments that were good, man,
Convinced you enough
they were
that there should
very
be something
they
there.
were because he was making some throws that like you don't see a lot of guys make,
Mm-hmm.
and he was. The mobility's there. I want to say this on Kyler because you made a good point, and I was looking for this. Somebody posted this to me, and I finally found it. So talking about Kyler's win-loss record,
Yep.
in his time in Arizona, he left the field with the lead or tied 62 out of 87 starts. That's 71% of the time. That is exactly the same as Patrick Mahomes over the last 7 years. It includes all 5 games last year and 14 out of 17 games the year before. The Cardinals went 10 and 12 in those games. Overall record for his career was 38, 48, and 1, meaning 24 losses out of the total of 48 happened after he left the field with the lead or tied. That's more than half the time, or that
Yep.
is half the time. So you want to talk about, I see people a lot of time, well, the Vikings in 2022 would have won more games or made a run if it wasn't for the defense. This is kind of the opposite where, the Vikings offense oftentimes hit the field down and had to come back and win. This is basically if every time that happened, almost the Vikings offense, tied the game or went up and then lost the game because of their defense. Like the Cardinals, I have a lot of friends who are Cardinals fans. I have so much love for Arizona. I married my wife there. We had our son there. I went to college there. I have so much love for Arizona, but the Cardinals are not a serious football operation. They are just not. They're not. And I know I said this on Twitter. So it was like, well, what are the Vikings? The Vikings have a lot of dumb things going on. And you and I know a little bit about maybe some of the stuff that isn't fully out there, but
Yep.
the bottom line is, and it's a consolation prize in the grand scheme of things, as I always say, they do win games and they do at least build mostly competent football teams. And again, that's like the meme of the guy on the podium in like last place chugging the
Yeah.
champagne and everyone's looking down on him. But in comparison, this is going to be a night and day organizational change for Kyler Murray. So I think if he does well, if he does really, really well, I think if they at least win a playoff game, I think that obviously that's an improvement. I don't see this team with any quarterback getting to or past the NFC Championship game without a serious run game. And I
Yeah.
still do not think they really have that because
No.
Jordan Mason is really good, but he's not going to be a long home run threat unless Aaron Jones hits the fountain of youth and pulls that back out, that ability. Because he did it a couple times in 2024 where he'd have, I don't want to like get misquoted as far as what his longest runs were, what felt like long runs, 20,
Mm-hmm.
30, 40 yards,
Yep.
but he would typically get gassed before the end zone. That's why I still think you invest in a second to fourth round back. I love Mike Washington because he is so extremely different than what's currently in the room. You need a home run hitter. Like you have to. And you look at why Darnold had success. He's an incredibly good quarterback, but the difference in last year's playoffs versus this year's playoffs was the threat of the run game. They had to respect Kenneth Walker. And that allowed Darnold, when needed, to have the space to go nuclear in the NFC Championship game. You look at, the Patriots. What did they build their team around? Drake May, and they immediately drafted a running back after in the next year's draft with Travion Henderson. So teams are clearly prioritizing the run game if they're going to be serious about playoff success. The Vikings, they cannot keep kicking that can down the road. But if Kyler can get 1 or 2 playoff wins without that, then I'd consider it a massive show of his success to be able to overcome that. And obviously, one thing that doesn't get talked about enough is that he is going to be decent chance your leading rusher on this football team potentially. If he goes for 500-600 yards, I think his personal best is about 500-550 rushing yards. If he does that, he might genuinely, with the way KOC runs his running game and the health issues in that room, be your leading rusher on the team.
Yeah, and this Mike Washington Jr. cat sounds interesting. Do you know if there's any interviews out there where we can learn a little bit more about him?
I think I have one on my Instagram,
Hmm.
possibly where I got talking about the Senior Bowl, and I'm not just biased because I got to talk to him. I did a few interviews with some other running backs that, you record some interviews. I did one with Ted Hurst, the wide receiver out of Georgia State, that I didn't post just because their agent's standing there, they're trying to rush him out. You
Hmm.
don't quite get the same flow of the conversation, but what really sold me was the measurables at the combine running a 4.3.
Yeah.
But I think, man, if you put a guy like that with that speed with Kyler Murray, and then you have like Jordan Addison or Jefferson who can come around on an end around reverse or whatever and have that kind of little bit of a collegiate type option play, you could break off a run or a fake to a throw, whatever you want to do for like a 30-40 yard gain pretty consistently with those types of threats. I mean, look at what happened with Jordan Addison's rushing touchdown last year.
Yep.
So, that's one of those situations where you need some explosive upside in that room and somebody who can be just a home run threat if you're going to have success in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I've said this multiple times on various shows, and I think I tweeted about it at some point too, before my James Pierre blow up returned to relevancy on the Everything app. With the Vikings run game, not to stay on it for too long, it's not that they couldn't run the ball, it's just that they didn't. And like they were 12th in the NFL in success rate on run plays last season. It's just Kevin O'Connell obviously doesn't have he hasn't displayed much of a great grasp on when to run the ball in his time here, even going back to 2022. And the quarterback play was so bad last year that it was almost impossible to run the ball in some spots because the
Yeah.
quarterback play was so bad, you were off script so much. So if the
Yeah.
Vikings got a legitimate run game, especially with Kyler Murray, it's a whole different. We're living in a whole new world.
Well, I think of it. I think of how Dalvin Cook was used in 2022. It wasn't his best season rushing the ball, but
Hmm.
I mean, he had multiple. The Bills game, I think it was a rush. He had like that 70, 80 yard touchdown that got us back in the mix when we were down 2 or 3 scores. He had the screen pass that he took. I think it was the score that ended up leading to the 2-point conversion that tied the game in the comeback against Indianapolis. I think he had the last touchdown of regulation, and then they hit the 2-point conversion,
Yep.
if I remember correctly. Mike Washington reminds me of Dalvin Cook. If people think that's crazy, the literal NFL draft physical profiler compared him to Adrian Peterson, which is even crazier to me.
Hmm.
But he's a very good receiving back. I think you need that option because if you're going to say, oh, Kyler's short, he can't see over the line. Well, who can you see? Your running back going out to your side on a quick screen.
Yeah.
So I think
And
it makes sense.
yeah, there's a legitimate argument for Mike Washington Jr. being like the most all-around complete back in this draft outside of Jeremiah Love. And I like Mike Washington a lot. Does the
Yeah.
re-signing of Aaron Jones confuse me a little bit? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it does. I understand to a certain point, but also I'm kind of like, can we not? Can we move along? Um,
I love Aaron. I love
yeah.
Aaron. He's career wise, he's an incredibly talented back. He's an A+ human being. I think he's an incredible locker room presence. Here's my guess. I think they probably looked at Aaron Jones similar to the offensive version of Harrison Phillips, a guy who maybe wasn't putting up the most massive numbers, but did the dirty work, was valuable for what he did, and was a locker room pillar. And then you get rid of him and regret doing that. I think that's maybe what happened. I know that they were in on a couple of the free agent running backs, and when those didn't fall through, like Aaron Jones was not priority one,
Yeah.
but I'm sure maybe that was a bit of a factor in it. But for time's sake,
Mm-hmm.
I think let's go to scenario two,
Yep.
which is Kyler struggles either in camp and McCarthy just looks miles better, or he struggles early in the year and they make a switch to McCarthy. And in this situation, McCarthy just stays healthy. He puts on weight and he looks to be the guy. I think you don't want a situation where it's because Kyler gets hurt or anything like that. Like we're going to specifically ignore, I think, any scenarios where it requires somebody getting hurt, because you never really want to like plan around that. And ideally, both these guys are healthy. They're able to have a serious competition. But in that scenario, I mean, let's just say McCarthy gets the call like week 3 or 4. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
say they want to try to get Kyler a real game action after a rough camp. What would you say to keep McCarthy if he only does get to play like 12, 13 games? What would you need to see from him to be like, okay, yeah, never mind. He really is the guy. We're not even going to worry about it. Like, would you have to see like a deep playoff run? What would you consider that? And I know you and I both like JJ,
Yeah.
so maybe our standards might be lower.
So I wouldn't even really equate it to team success, although that would be wonderful to have team success. The kid literally just needs to prove that he can move the football down the field, because every other quarterback that's been under Kevin O'Connell, except for J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer, I'm including Nick Mullins, I'm including Carson Wentz, has proven to.
You're missing one. You're missing one who did not prove that they could do that. Give you a hint. It's another rookie quarterback.
Oh, Jaron Hall. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah. Important
veterans.
though. Important facts that all
Yeah.
the rookies
True.
struggle.
Yeah, so Kevin O'Connell might be a veteran QB merchant, which would help Kyler's case. But in a case where we have to defend McCarthy and try to see the good, he literally just needs to prove to be able to move the ball down the field. And that's just something that he didn't consistently show that he was able to do. It was his first 10 games, yada, yada, yada. He's all injured. We all know. Everybody send him get well soon cards, whatnot, whatever we want to do. But there has to be a clear improvement and clear trajectory upward out of McCarthy. Because I was gonna say my most realistic scenario out of all this, like what I think will happen, is that whoever is the starter week 1 will eventually get hurt, and then the other guy comes in. What happens from there, I don't really know. But for
Yeah.
McCarthy, there has to be a clear trajectory upwards, and I don't know if that means winning a playoff game, but I do think it means, and I hate like box score stats aren't everything, but it's play that will equate whatever the E word is to McCarthy's obviously capable of moving down the field and consistently putting points on the board without having to completely rely on the defense. Um, but
Yeah.
that would be it for me.
I
Just
just
a
don't see a world.
clear path forward.
I just don't see a world where either of these guys are successful as quarterbacks and there's not team success,
Yeah,
unless like you do trade Gernard and then your edge room gets injured and you don't find answers at defensive tackle, and that you have a hypothetical where maybe Jalen Redmond taking on the load ends up not being
mm-hmm.
as good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all those things, possibilities, like the defense seriously regressing.
Yeah, well, I was saying not equating to team
Got it.
success
Got it. Got it. Got it.
just because McCarthy went 6-4, arguably should have been
Yeah.
7-3, and it was obvious he sucked last year.
Yeah. No, I think I mean, Brosmer went 1-1 and
Yep.
had the worst quarterback performance I've ever seen in person.
Yep.
Um, and then there's probably two more scenarios. The four, I'll just skip to number 4 because it's kind of not even worth debating, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this happens, which would be the hypothetical. I'm not even going to say like last year because it kind of was this last year, but also not, because we got to 9-4 and with terrible quarterback play. I'd put this more in like the neutral Kirk Cousins situation, the Zimmer era Cousins, where you finish between 8 and 10 wins, don't make the playoffs, but your quarterback play was not bad.
Yeah.
In fact, it was sometimes good and sometimes it was bad, but as a whole, it was fine. Uh, I think if that happens, I don't see them doing the whole, well, we're close enough. Let's run it back with Kyler. Let's run it back with McCarthy. I think that they would. I still think maybe in that scenario, Kevin O'Connell might lose his job depending on how it
Mm-hmm.
happens. But I think what we do need to be prepared for, going back a scenario that we could probably be more in depth on, is scenario 3, which is what if they both struggle?
Yeah.
What if Kyler, and again, this is with, for me, struggling doesn't mean getting hurt, because getting hurt, there's a lot of what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
But what if they're both healthy and they're both just bad? I don't think both of them. I don't think this will happen. Personally, I think the odds of either Kyler hitting or McCarthy getting better are as like combined make me confident that I'd put it over 50% that one of them will be good.
Yep.
And maybe that's just my eternal optimism. But what happens? Do you for like, is there a scenario where both of them are just bad that you don't move off Kevin O'Connell in your mind?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one where they're both bad and you don't move off Kevin O'Connell. And I kind of have to have that opinion because I've been tooting the horn of like Kevin O'Connell. Technically, you can make the argument he's already put his job on the line for JJ McCarthy twice now. A, when he drafted him, and B, when they let Darnold walk for him. So it's obvious. I think we can all agree that the Vikings had to do something this offseason to give themselves the best chance to win, as Kevin O'Connell sat up at the press at the podium and said a million times about building the most competitive quarterback room possible and getting Kyler Murray for $1.3 million. I mean, first of all, talk about freaking bailout after you let
Yeah,
Sam Darnold walk and then Kyler Murray
seriously.
falls into your lap. Like, count your blessings at that point. So the Wolves could look at it that way. It's like, all right, dude, you just got blessed from the football gods that Kyler Murray just fell into your lap. So yeah, I don't know if there's a scenario where McCarthy and Murray both struggle, and that of course leads to the team struggling, missing the playoffs. And I'm not saying the Vikings necessarily have to make the playoffs for O'Connell to stick around. I think the Wilfs like that dude a lot, and I think we both like KOC a lot.
Dude, I've been critical of KOC lately, and people are like, "Oh, you hate Kevin O'Connell." No, I love
Yeah.
this man right here who gave my wonderful son of football.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to our friend Dustin Klug, who made sure he threw it our direction, caught it for us because I was holding my son, and then handed it to us.
W
My son
Mans.
did try to throw it back, so luckily that didn't happen. But
Yeah.
all that to say, like, there is no other coach I'd rather see be the guy to get us over the hump going forward than Kevin O'Connell. He's still young. He could be, if he gets us a Super Bowl in the next couple of years, like, he has years and years
Mm-hmm.
ahead where I would never see him getting fired if he did that, where he could do it again. He knows what he's doing with the quarterback position. He does. His support staff, that's my main criticism is how are you utilizing your support staff? What are they
Yep.
doing? Are they ideologically aligned with you? That is because like with the running game, for example, it's not just, hey, you don't know when to run the ball. It's also, well, hey, people are asking questions like, what exactly is Wes Phillips' involvement? Well, I bounce ideas off him. Well, are the ideas you're bouncing off him? What's the feedback you're getting? Are you, because we haven't seen much of a change to your philosophy. Are you getting pushback? Are you getting challenged? Like, what is happening? You need somebody who's going to challenge you and bring up other ideas. That's where my questions and concerns come from, because the longer things go on, the more it seems like a bit of an echo chamber.
Yep.
It's just what it looks like from the outside. We're not in the building, but I want to see Kevin O'Connell succeed. I just, but as like being somebody who cares, passionate about this team, but in an objective sense, as far as like, here's the results, what do you do with them? I just cannot see entering year 6 without a playoff win.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the first coach since 18 to get into year 5 without a playoff win. That doesn't happen in today's NFL. And I know that the second the Vikings move on from him, some other team will be more than happy to scoop him up. You might have a Harbaugh scenario almost, or where I think, yeah, it was the Dolphins fired McDaniels hoping to get Harbaugh after he got canned and then had to settle in another direction. You might have a scenario where a team who wasn't going to fire their coach does in hopes to get O'Connell. He's that type of coach. But the bottom line is you have to get results. And if you can't win one playoff game, we could talk about last year, but if you can't win a playoff game in grand totality with Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, and JJ McCarthy being your main starters at various points, like as bad as last year was, you got to win a playoff game with one of those guys at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's enough talent there, even with the questions about McCarthy, to win a playoff game at some point. There is. And so the excuses, I think, are out of the window, especially when the specialty and the reason you drafted him is the quarterback identification and development process. You can't just keep hitting the infinite reset glitch on that.
Yeah, I agree. And with first of all, like Kevin O'Connell is extremely blessed to have Brian Flores on his staff, and that the Wilfs were
Yeah.
willing to
Impressive.
make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL. And then to your point about like O'Connell getting challenged in the room, I think the hiring of Frank Smith from outside to be assistant head coach, part of the
It's good.
Dolphins formerly, I think he's going to be a good potential fit to kind of do that with him. And then also tell him, hey, dude, run the fucking football. Because, of
Yeah.
course, Miami, you had Devin Achan. So, and I will say, because there's a contingent of Vikings fans out there that already want Kevin O'Connell gone, which I do kind of understand. But also for everybody, and I'm not saying you can't be critical of Kevin O'Connell. Like I'm critical of Kevin O'Connell, you are, and the situational play calling is the number one thing, and knowing when to run the
Yeah.
ball. Is this not what we all wanted at the end of the Mike Zimmer era? Like we got exactly what we wanted in terms of the style of head coach that's not afraid to throw the football when he should probably run the ball, that likes to run a modern West Coast offense. Like this is what we wanted. We were begging for
Yes,
this.
to an extent, but
To
I'll
an
say 2
extent.
points on that.
Yep.
To an extent, like there is also the level of, and because when Kevin O'Connell's offense works, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it with Cousins, we saw it with Darnold, like to a simultaneously greater and lesser extent, we saw it with Nick Mullins because Mullins threw a crap ton of interceptions, but he also threw some freaking laser
Yep.
bombs that were sick. Um, like these are all things that are really fun, but it's not a sustainable offense to do that day, like
Yeah.
play in, play out.
Yep.
You have to have a fallback. And I think back, and I've owned up to this, like all the blame, I still put pretty much all the blame for the Detroit loss on Darnold. He missed some inexcusable throws from short distances in the red zone. Absolutely inexcusable. But the Rams game, to have McVay tell Kevin O'Connell after that game, as both have stated, we knew exactly what you were going to do, to have the refusal to embrace the run game. And they did try a few times and it didn't work in that game. But the run game works when you have the respect needed for it to be effective,
Yep.
because you need to set it up. You need teams to be able to, or you need to be able to have teams respect your run game enough to not sell out against the pass. Or you have to respect your running backs or your running schemes or your blocking schemes. People just think it's as simple as run the ball, don't run the ball, good, bad. But there's blocking schemes. There's different types of rushing. There's different, you're going to run the ball inside with a speed back. You're going to have them try to break it away to the outside, like all these different factors. These are conversations that need to be had. And there is a time and a place to bust it out. When you have a rookie quarterback who's inconsistent, being on a 3rd and 1 and a critical game at home where you could win to save the season, having them try to throw a 45-yard touchdown. Yes, you could say, hey, if I call this play, this is how things should work out.
Yep.
You have Jordan Mason. You just traded for him and extended him. Live to see another down. There are conversations with that, but also the NFL isn't where it was. It's actually, I don't want to say it's closer to Zimmer, but I guess maybe it kind of is. The teams you're seeing have success. There's more of a balance, but I think it's less of a pass happy approach than what KOC wants to do. You're
Mm-hmm.
seeing, the Chiefs won Super Bowls with Tyreek Hill throwing deep bombs, and then they won Super Bowls throwing a ton of screens and quick routes once he left. You're seeing, the Eagles won a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, mainly because they had the threat of Saquon Barkley, right? We're seeing the importance in today's NFL of balance. You can still have those high flying plays on offense in the passing game, but you need the threat of, am I going to be effective at working the ball short to intermediate? And do I have a running game that's going to be able to offset when my passing game isn't perfect?
Yeah, completely agree. And I think I get what you're saying with the kind of moving closer to the Zimmer ball. Like if you look at I guess Denver this year would be kind of a
Yeah,
good example.
100%.
Going to the AFC Championship game with Bo Nix, good defense. Bo Nix wasn't asked to do like a ton of things, but Bo Nix did make game-winning plays during the regular season.
The
Um,
Seahawks, even
yeah,
like I tweeted during the Super Bowl, that was Mike Zimmer's dream game.
yeah.
Turnovers, defense, running the ball, right? And having your quarterback only need to throw a single touchdown, right? Like the league ebbs and flows. Once you start to see a trend in successful things work in the NFL, defenses adjust and offenses have to do the opposite. And then the
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. And you find nobody's reinventing the wheel in 2026 with NFL offenses.
Nope.
So you can make small tweaks and add in new wrinkles to try to throw defenses off. But eventually, the league is going to move to one direction. Defenses will adjust, and then you'll move back. And then you'll get these new wrinkles and developments in between. But there's never going to be some, I mean, I hesitate to say that we have, in theory, all the time in the world, but
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to see any just completely revolutionary start from scratch. No one's ever seen this before. It's a pendulum. And right now, the successful teams are physical. They have efficient quarterbacks who can make the short to intermediate throws, pick up 10 to 15, 20 yards at a time, and a running back that can either pick up 2 or 3 yards consistently or be a threat for the home run.
Yep. 1,000,000%. Completely agree. For time's sake, because we got to close out the show here, I shared, and this could change. We're talking. We're in mid March right now, so we're still 6 months out from the season. Draft hasn't even happened yet. I shared my most realistic scenario of that. I just think I didn't really share what I like the end of the season like win loss would be, but I shared one whoever starts week one will eventually get hurt. The other guy will come in. So for that reason, I don't think we've seen the last of JJ McCarthy. What is your prediction mid March right now for just how the quarterback room looks in general?
I'm gonna go with the. I mean, there's a chance it's terrible.
Yeah.
Like there's fundamentally there is a chance that this is worse than last year because it's almost. I don't. Not saying Kyler Murray will play like Max Brosmer,
No.
but when you're talking about somebody with the reputation of Max Bros or of Kyler Murray, you get a lot of hopes up.
Yep.
But there's a chance this is more disappointing than last year, in theory. I don't think that's the case. I think Kyler knows he's on a prove it deal. He's playing for his childhood team. If he wants to stick around, he has to do very well. Even at minimum, he has to do very well so that he can get a good deal elsewhere next year.
Mm-hmm.
JJ McCarthy's career in Minnesota and possibly career in general,
Yep.
as far as what is he defined as? Is he going to be a journeyman backup? Is he going to be, whatever it may be? Is he going to be a third stringer? Like, what is this guy going to be? Is in the balance this year. I am optimistically saying it'll bring out the best of them both. I think Kyler is 95% leash to be your starter. But I think if there is a scenario where, again, McCarthy just looks, he goes, I think I said last week, Jimmy Butler mode. Like, you need me going around just wrecking practice and making everyone look embarrassed.
Yeah.
Then I think it's hard not to start him given the amount that you've invested in him that I mentioned up top. I think whoever is the starting quarterback does well. And assuming they stay healthy, I think this team wins 11 to 12 games and gets a playoff win.
Wow.
Now, big factor in that is, do you keep Grenard? Right now, things have slowed down. I wish I could, I've been told it's because of this. I think my guess is the Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson thing slowed it down. I think the Eagles taking calls for A.J. Brown slowed things down because if they're able to trade him, that affects their cap space and it affects their capital that they could use. There's multiple factors there that could be a factor. It could also be that he saw Kyler Murray come and he wants to stick around. It could be that. It could, in theory, just be that situation. Um, all of this is based on the assumption that we have a decent starting center because with both of these quarterbacks, injury history, that is a major concern that I can't believe we didn't bring up. But starting center is I'm genuinely more concerned about that than I am the quarterback play right now, because the quarterback play is going to suffer greatly if you do not have a dependable starting center. Juergens, the team likes him. He struggled a bit on and off. He had a couple good moments last year. Brandel, I think it was our friend Thor said it. I agree with him. I think he's more valuable as a plug and play piece than he is just switching him full time to center. And that's not taking away from how well he played at center last year. I just don't know if a rookie's the solution, and I don't know if you have any starting caliber, high quality centers on the market right now left. Yeah. So I'm stressed about that position more than anything else, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely stressed about center. I do think it's something where they could end up giving Brandel the look. Not that I necessarily want them to. I wouldn't lose sleep over it. So if they wanted to start him, bring in a rookie, because that would be a value move for a team that doesn't have a lot of money. Instead of going out and spending more money on a center. I mean, you were never going to have a shot at Tyler Lindenbaum. But, some would also say you could be very worried about the starting tight end position, too, for an offense that may have a quarterback that relies heavily on yards after catch from the tight end. But that's a whole nother hour-long episode about TJ Hawkinson and would be a great throwback for the Skolcial Network. But
maybe both these quarterbacks can throw over the middle of the field. Maybe their main target there in Kevin O'Connell's scheme just is TJ Hawkinson in 2026, 2025.
Makes you think. Makes you wonder. Boy math.
Makes you ask the big questions.
Yeah, boy math. I don't care how much TJ Hawkinson makes. I want him off my team. But Jason, I greatly appreciate you coming on today, taking time away from your most important role as a father.
Oh wait, hold on. This is very important.
We just
I forgot. There's one scenario I did not mention that did come up on my comment.
Brosmer was so good in camp, he wins the starting job.
Close.
Nailed it.
Again, you forget about Max Brosmar, and I'm saying Brosmar because that's how it's spelled, who pushed JJ last year for the starting job. That is, Max Brosmar had an incredible camp. He pushed himself onto an NFL team. He was never, ever challenging to be even QB2.
Yeah.
He was an undrafted free agent who was a rookie camp invite and stuck around, just for context. Murray gets hurt, JJ gets hurt. Max saves the season. We get our first playoff win, and we actually win the Super Bowl, ending JJ's run as a Minnesota Viking and in the NFL. So that is scenario number 5 or 6 that Max Brosmer earns the starting job outright. I think that scenario completely depends that the 2 games he played in last year started in last year just simply did not happen.
Yeah.
And that we live on Fairy Dream Island.
Well, that's easy enough to do. You just eradicate those from existence, just burn the film like you did with Teddy's knee injury, and pretend that never happened.
Man. Let's make a deal.
I miss Teddy.
Let's make a deal.
We're making a deal.
Make a deal.
Live negotiation.
This is no negotiation. This is just, I think you'd be down. If the Vikings have a disastrous season, fail to make the playoffs, and fire their head coach, you just hinted at another great story, because we keep dropping hints to all these things from behind the scenes. We should plan a dirty laundry episode for next off season, where we just air all the things that could be cursing this team, that may be holding us back, that just need to maybe see some light, be cleaned up a little bit, in hopes that we can just move past all the dumb things that have happened. But I'll just leave it at that.
Are you talking like things that are like publicly known, or things that...
Some things that are publicly known, some things that are conspiracy theories, some things that may not be. I don't know. And I'm sure we'll find out more. But I think we could, or we could just call it the Vikings conspiracy episode and make people think, make their own decisions on if something is true or not.
The Vikings conspiracy episode - per sources.
It's all real. Yeah.
Or it's all real, yeah. The per sources bowl. But yeah, Jason, I appreciate you coming on wearing sunglasses in
Really hope Red
solidarity.
Ellison is doing well.
Oh yeah. Uh-oh. How's Norv Turner doing?
Uh,
But
I don't know. His hand hurts a bit, but
yeah, we will. Maybe we'll touch on that in a year from now. Um,
hopefully not. That is
hopefully
that is
not.
that is a cope. That is a cope of we're gonna be in a situation where we're mad. We're just gonna air out everything and hope it brings a breath of fresh air into the Vikings organization because that's our job. But
Yeah,
we'll forget about this in like 10 minutes too. But
absolutely.
could make some fun after some disappointing football if that, God forbid, happens. But in the meantime,
Yeah,
Kyler Murray, K1 plus a 9. We're winning at least 10 games.
minimum, absolute
Minimum.
minimum floor 10 games. You heard it here first on the Skolcial Network. And then definitely, I'm gonna write down the Per Sources Bowl in my notes app and stumble upon it in
Okay.
6 months and be like, what? So be on the
And you're
lookout
gonna
for that
text
next year.
me, and I'm gonna somehow have another kid on the way by then, and I'm gonna be like, brother, I have no idea what's going
Hey
on.
man, that's up. That's
No,
up to your execution.
it's about time again. Apparently, just checking the calendar, it's about time. What Case was about 14 months old, about a year and 2 months when we found out we were having Grace. So apparently, it's just what happens.
It's an ebbs and flow league. You got to follow
So,
the trends. Where can the people find you one more time before
Jason
we
Harmon
go?
NFL on Twitter. You could also find me just in Brev's thoughts each and every day
Yep.
as he just
Yep.
misses me and the time we went to what
True.
was the mall? I can't remember the mall we went to, that TJ
I
Fridays.
think it was just called like Tyson's Corner or something.
Tyson Square. That's
Yeah.
what it was.
Tyson's
Tyson or
Corner.
something.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. I got my phone that day. That was great. I appreciate you guys all coming out and watching. Go support Jason, Skolcial Network alumni, doing great things. Couldn't be more
By the
proud of
way,
my
real quick,
boyfriend.
Brev,
Yep.
everyone who's watching this in the comments, if
Yep.
you haven't already, just leave some love for Brev. He reactivated this whole thing, and I'll be on here and there when I can. But he's working his tail off to get guests in. I think this week is just stacked with guests. He's bringing the content. He's really going all in. So any love that you could show Brev, drop it in the comments. This is my boy. Very proud to have him back and see him doing well.
Thank you very much. I'm putting that at the front of the episode, by the way. I'm just gonna
Wow,
edit it
that's going to
and
be a
just
super awkward cut.
yeah. Well, I'm just so good at video editing.
I
Uh,
will never forget the Arby's, the 20-second rant about the Virginia Arby's you went on
Dude, that
in
Arby's is
my
sick.
Monday Night Football vlog. That is an incredible piece of American architecture.
Colonial Heights Arby's. Shout out to you guys. If you're watching from there, let me know. Put your Arby's order down in the comments, and we will see all you guys next time. I guess what Tuesday? Dude, I need to get my show straight. Tuesday, I think I have. Dude, I don't even remember. I know I got Joe Spinoza on this week. Jump scare, he's still alive. I got the Brohio one coming on. It's gonna be a big week, and only bigger things are coming. Skolcial Network's going to the moon, and you're all gonna be a part of that, including Jason. Appreciate everybody coming out. Skol.